Now, what if possibly there's some kind of link here? What if they met at one point? What if this was his target? If he was a cleric of the Luxem and drawing power from there, somehow maybe in his, I guess, mechanical nature, or if he does have a soul, like in this sense, like the Luxem soul, I think that this would make sense. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Fraud on the Telly. In today's video, we're breaking down everything that happened on Tuesday night's episode of Four-Sided Dive, an episode in which Sam revealed a lot of information about FCG, as well as some very interesting speculation on potentially FCG's origins and where he gets his divine magic. As always, if you enjoyed the video or learned something new, why don't you cast divine intervention on that like button. Don't forget to use your bonus action to help the subscribe button, and make sure you click that tiny bell. So the first thing that I want to cover from Four-Sided Dive was all the information that we gained from Sam and all the speculation that they had over his character FCG, and the recent reveals that FCG is in fact an Aormaton, is in fact some kind of sleeper agent, murder bot used by Aor to assassinate political rivals. Now, Sam informs us that he did in fact know quite a bit about FCG's backstory. He knew that he was some kind of a murder bot because he had to know the mechanics that him and Matt implemented. He confirms that it is a stress mechanic meter, and he knows when the mechanic and the stress goes up and down. Apparently, FCG was actually on the brink of snapping into his murder bot form several times throughout the campaign, and Sam had been wondering anxiously when this was going to happen. Apparently it could have happened on the Death Wish run, which would have been absolutely crazy. Someone actually could have ended up dead potentially on that. As well, Sam seems to confirm that FCG is this sleeper bot. Before, we weren't sure. It seemed like this was a possibility, but it wasn't actually confirmed. But it seems like Sam also believes that he was this sleeper bot, even though he said himself that he had no plans of being an Aormaton. He just wanted to be a sentient automaton, and it was Matt who linked Aor in. Speaking of Aor, we had a theory in our theory video early this week talking about FCG's connection with Aor and possibly the inception of Aormatons. Now, they bring up something interesting later on in the show. A viewer asks Sam, what's the deal with FCG and his divine powers, but no divine entity or god in any way? Now, I had a theory that possibly Aormatons were constructed and given their sentience in Aor from the Luxem Beacon, because we know that Aor was doing experiments on the Luxem Beacon. Thus, it would make sense why they were the only society to create these sentient, like, person-like Aormatons, right? Because they would, in that case, possibly have souls in them from the Luxem. Now, this is just a theory, but to me, this would explain how FCG is able to cast this magic, this divine magic, without any apparent influence of a god. If he was a cleric of the Luxem and drawing power from there, somehow maybe in his, I guess, mechanical nature, or if he does have a soul, like in this sense, like the Luxem soul, I think that this would make sense. Them talking about this only more confirmed my theory. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm sure some other people have speculated this, but I haven't seen anyone talk about this theory yet. And I'm very, very curious, because the only other character that we've seen do magic like this, divine magic, was Xerxes, right? And a lot of people speculated that possibly Xerxes was some kind of a paladin of the Luxem. Who knows? Well, the cast wonder about who possibly FCG's target was for his murder bot assassination. We know that FCG was found by D, most likely Devexion, in the Odirian Wild, so we can probably assume that FCG was sent from Aor to somewhere in Marquette, and that's how he ended up here. His assassination target was possibly in Marquette. Now, we don't know this for sure. Obviously, there's a lot that we don't know, but this is a kind of safe assumption. I then had a crazy thought, as I am prone to do with Critical Role and theories, that what if possibly, now this is a long shot, his target was Alexian. Now, or maybe he has something to do with Alexian. There could possibly be a link here. We know that FCG is, you know, super old, like Calamity old. He happens to be in the same continent where Alexian was during the Calamity. Now, what if possibly there's some kind of link here? What if they met at one point? What if this was his target? Who knows? Super out there. Probably not right. I mean, there's not much holding the theory together except that they were on the same continent at the same time together. I don't know, just a crazy thought that I had. You know, sometimes I just lie awake at night thinking about all the crazy things that Matt Mercer could come up with, and then my mind breaks. They talk about the city on the moon and possibly like a group of people living there with the gods. Now, why would there be a group of people there? We've talked about this a little bit in theory videos in the past, but my best guess would be that these are worshippers of these two gods that were taken with them, because we know that gods need worshippers for their power, at least in some retrospect in Critical Role. We've seen this with Vecna, as well as some other gods, that when you worship them, when they like gain occult worshipping, we saw this in Campaign 2 as well with Jester and the Traveler, that they gain powers from this worship. So then, of course, these gods would need some kind of a worshippers. What happened to my brain there? This kind of links with the Shadow Assassins that we've seen popping up across Campaign 3, the ones that tried to kill Keyleth, the ones that killed the twins. It would make sense then, and Liam puts this forward, and I think the others agree with him, that these Shadow Assassins are either apparitions or like astral projections from Ruidus-born people, or people like living on the moon, right? Because when they're struck down, they don't die. They just kind of like dissolve into the earth. It's not like their actual form. What if they were astral projecting themselves from the moon, like a manifestation of their power and their conscious, onto Exandria? Marisha talks about the flares of Ruidus being exactly that, kind of them reaching out to the people of Exandria, hence why Ruidus-born people get their dreams usually whenever the moon flares. It's kind of like them mentally reaching out, making a connection with the people of Exandria. Now, I also had another crazy theory, as I seem to be prone to lately, this one also involving the beacon in a way. What if Ruidus-born people are actually Ruidus-born? Now, they talk about this a little in the show, like specifically like if it's a more literal, like what if they're born on Ruidus? But what if it is something like the beacon, where if you're born under a red moon, then I guess like the beacon, where the soul kind of goes on into the next life, what if it's like that? What if it's like a life from, I don't know, this city in the sky, these worshippers of this god that gets reborn back onto Exandria, hence why they are gifted sometimes with powers. As well, they talk about what if there is strange tech, advanced technology like pre-Calamity, Age of Arcanum-esque technology on the moon. We know that Otahon has a strange jetpack device under her cloak that she hides. What if, then, this is something that she got from her time on Ruidus, or possibly being linked with Ruidus? This would also lead credence to the theory that the moon of Ruidus is a way for Matt Mercer and D&D and Wizards to implement Spelljammer into Critical Role. Now, this is kind of the pessimistic theory, as it's basically like a marketing campaign, but also quite fun if you're a fan of Spelljammer, which I am in a way. Spelljammer's kind of like this super advanced D&D sci-fi-esque society that you can, setting that you can play in, right? And we don't really have a lot of that in Critical Role. It's very traditional fantasy, because the Age of Arcanum was kind of this more sci-fi-y, advanced, you know, magic, fantasy-esque setting, and we know that they wanted to introduce this for a while. People have been begging for Githyanki on this show since Campaign 1, and they were teased. So, I honestly think that there is something to this. I hate saying that, but I really do. The video is getting a little long, but we're going to touch about some Fern questions, specifically with Morrigan. Ashley references the fact that she uses some Scandinavian folklore, specifically in her backstory a little bit, which kind of makes sense, as her story of Fern and Morrigan and everything is kind of some weird, fucked up fairy tale. But I took this as a challenge, so we did a little research on Morrigan in Scandinavian folklore. Morrigan apparently was a great warrior queen, most associated with inciting war. There's also some texts that claim that the Morrigans were kind of similar to Valkyries in a way, and also kind of similar to the Fates in Greek mythology, where they would decide kind of the fate of soldiers, of people of war. If you were a valiant soldier, if you fought bravely, then sometimes they would choose not to kill you, I guess, to decide that this is your time to die. Now, that's very interesting, obviously, because we know of the history of the Feywild and the Civil War, and possibly more war upcoming in the Feywild. So it's very interesting that Morrigan, specifically in history, was associated with inciting war, sowing these seeds of doubt and mistrust, and known as a great warrior queen. Pay close attention to this. Very interesting stuff, Ashley Johnson. It's funny, too, because a lot of the cast were super struggling with some bits of Critical Role lore, and it got me wondering, like, why don't I just apply as a lore master? Wait, now look, Critical Role. I know we've had a bit of our differences in the past. Yes, I may have talked about the problems and some critiques of Campaign 3. Yes, maybe I did that. Yes, maybe I jokingly accused Travis and Towson of metagaming. Yes, maybe I did that. Maybe I, in a really clickbait way, talked about how EXU Calamity was scripted, but it was actually just a ruse so I could give it a really good review. Yeah, maybe I did that. But you know, I also did a lot of other things too. Look at all this big, beautiful lore. Look at it all. And who could forget our amazing review of Legend of Vox Machina? I guess all I'm really trying to say is, Critical Role, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. For absolutely nothing. But no, seriously, if you guys need like a lore position or you're hiring, you know, like you can always just give me a call. Just give me a ring, you know. I think that about wraps it up. Obviously, they talked about a bunch of other stuff on the show, but this was kind of the stuff that I wanted to talk about in our episode today. What do you guys think about my strange theories as well as the cast's strange theories and postulations? Do you think that possibly there is some kind of link between Eormitons and the Beacon as well? What do you think about my Beacon-esque theory with Ruidus and Rebirth and Ruidus-born people? Can't wait to find out what's going on with all of this stuff in Campaign 3. I think I'm going to make a follow-up video to the one I made a month ago about the problem with Campaign 3, as it's really funny because this is just the way the world works, doesn't it? You know, probably a week after I put out that video, Campaign 3 just automatically started shifting gears, and a lot of those problems, in my opinion, became solved. I thought about putting out a video kind of following up on the problems with Campaign 3 and are they solved and things of that nature. Let me know in the comments down below if you want something like that. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you go like, comment, and subscribe. As well, go follow all of my socials at Fraud on the Telly. I post pretty regularly to TikTok now, so don't forget to check us out there. As well, I do stream occasionally at twitch.tv at Fraud on the Telly. Not as often as I'd like to, but my life is crazy busy, man, and it's hard to fit some streams in. But hey, go give me a follow to see whenever I'm live. Always, guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I do appreciate you. Stay safe out there. Peace, love. Adu.